Welcome again. It's week 5 of our Connection Group series. Maybe you've seen me a couple times already, or maybe you're just jumping into this series with us. Either way, we're excited to continue discussing what it means to be worldly tonight. Pastor Casey is one of our youth pastors here, and he's going to unpack this idea of peace and what it means to have peace. And maybe not in the hippie sense where everyone is happy all the time and everyone agrees and has the same idea and thought, but what does it mean to have peace in a context of our country where not everyone gets along, not everyone sees things the same way, and even within our churches, but maybe we don't agree on all topics. What does it look like to have true peace and experience that? Here's Pastor Casey.
So I think we can all agree that our current state of our country and our world could use a little bit more peace, right? And, I think that about that word peace, and think about how that was so foreign to me as a kid, not really understanding what that meant, and always fighting with my brother. I always fought. Another sibling story here. We were at the kitchen table and we're doing homework. And the thing about my brother is he's 3 years younger than me, but he's vastly smarter than I am, like incredibly smart. And so we're sitting next to each other, we're doing homework, and I'm getting ready for a spelling test I have the next day. And so I'm trying to write these words off memory, and I'm not a very good speller. But the thing about me when I was a kid and growing up, and even to this day I struggle with it, I always want to be right. Like, I'm always arguing, and I always want to come out on top out of the conversation. And so I'm writing down my words, and I write down the word school. And as I'm doing that, my brother looks over at my paper, and he says in the most pretentious way as an elementary kid, "Casey, that is not how you spell school." And I said, "Corey, yes, that is how you spell school. It is spelled S-K-O-O-L, with the most confidence that anyone can ever have spelling a word wrong." And he looks at me and he says, "No, it's spelled S-C-H-O-O-L." I said, "Corey, that's cool. That doesn't even make sense." And we keep going back and forth, and it's elevating and elevating and elevating. It gets to this point where I get so frustrated, I rip my sock off my foot, I crumple it up, and I shove it in his mouth. And all I could think of was, I won this conversation. I was right. I win. The next day, I do my spelling test, and I fail it. And I don't show my brother. Come home confident. Totally nailed that spelling test. But I always wanted to be right. And sadly, I think that the church is kind of viewed as that as well. And I believe the church have these convictions, these beliefs that they believe are true. But unfortunately, no matter how good that is, they force that upon people. And they make people kind of scared to come to church because of that. And they always want to be right. And churches are more seen for what they're against rather than what they're for nowadays. And that makes people run away from church rather than come to them. And when I think about Jesus, I think that he was the total opposite of that. He was so attractive and he was so sought after and chased because he was a man who was known for what he was for. And he talked about that all the time. And there's this great moment where Jesus, he's handed a scroll in Luke 4:18. And on the scroll, it's the prophet Isaiah kind of describing what the Messiah is going to be here to do. And it says that he's come to tell the good news, the gospel, God's love to the poor. He's come to set prisoners free. He's come to heal the blind and free the oppressed. And he rolls up the scroll and says, "Yep, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm about." And man, I feel that that's what the church should be like. We should model what Jesus was for. I mean, he was even labeled and nicknamed the Prince of Peace. And a lot of people have this wrong view of peace, thinking that peace is making sure everybody gets along because we believe the same thing. And that's not what peace is about. Jesus obviously didn't believe everything that other people believed when he met them, but he took time to love them, and he took time to love them regardless of their differences. And Martin Luther King says, peace cannot be achieved by force. It has to be achieved by understanding. And I think that's what Jesus was about. And I think the church should model that example of peace. And I want Active Church to be a church known for what we're for rather than what we're against. I want people to be able to come to Active Church and really feel like they can come here with any problem or any struggle, any fear, and know they're not going to be judged, but we're here to help bring them peace. And that this place can be a place where peace is achieved. And not that we have to agree with one another, because that's not what it's about, but it's loving each other and understanding where everybody comes from. Jesus met with all these different types of people, adulterers and tax collectors and sinners and all these different types of people. And Jesus never believed the way that they believed, but he understood where they're coming from and understood that they needed to be set free from what they were being oppressed by. And whether that was greed, whether that was lust, whether that was addiction, whatever that was, Jesus wanted to set people free from that. And Active Church is a place where people can be set free because we're willing to understand where they're coming from. And this is a place where anybody can receive peace.